Imperfect Parenting podcast with the boys.
The boys are both here.
The boys are back in town.
Back in town.
Never.
Back in town.
You never left.
I am your town.
You are my town.
I don't know what
My
that means.
only town. You make me happy. No,
Oh, wow.
You won't
When
do that.
Someone send that. Brittney's singing. Send it to American Idol.
It's more
Brittney
like
was
talking.
singing out there a whole bunch
I
too.
know.
I don't remember that.
Singing day.
Anyways.
You say you were
Moving on.
out there going, I feel pretty.
Oh.
so
pretty.
Well, it's good.
We should do an episode where you sing.
I don't think that's a
The
good
whole
thing.
thing.
Imperfect singing parenting.
It would definitely be imperfect. Nope.
Come
Nope,
on, we
nope.
gotta
This is
redirect.
connection over
We gotta
perfection.
redirect. Yeah, connection over perfection, but we should connect to our meme.
Let's do it. All right.
Well, what are we talking about first?
I'm going to tell them. So this topic today is about feedback, which I think this is fitting because when I said feedback, I'm wondering what the response was out there to the listeners.
They're probably wondering, is this the right podcast?
Yeah. Wait a minute. What?
I thought we were doing parenting.
So
we are.
The response of the cat that heard feedback as well. It says, when someone says, can I give you some feedback? And it's this cat with like open mouth, wide-eyed, kind of experience.
Very scared.
So it's kind of a funny
You
photo.
got too
Very
much
clever.
of a whiff of catnip. That's what that
Whoa.
looks like.
Whoa. So feedback's
it.
typically a scary topic, especially if you haven't practiced it. So
And I think that giving feedback or talking about it in the context of parenting and stuff like that might be a new concept for some people because, I, in my book, talk about the value of the culture being the same that the parents give to the children and the children give back to the parents and really creating the safety for that. And we've talked about that before.
And stability, because of it, yeah.
But a lot of times, the experience is the rules are not the same for the kids coming back to the parents. That
Follow what I say, not what I do.
exactly. So it's I can be rude, I can be controlling, I can be hurtful and disrespectful, and you, the child, has to be compliant, obedient, and
Kind.
yeah, and you are not allowed to be disrespectful back.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're punished or all sorts of things happen. I give you lots of feedback, but you're not allowed to give me feedback. And
And the feedback I do give is probably not very good.
it can
Yeah.
be. So paying attention to, do your children feel safe enough to give you feedback? What is the experience they have with you? I'm not talking about, well, you didn't give me ice cream, so I'm not going to do the chores. That's not feedback. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, I know I didn't do my chore and you're frustrated, but how you communicated was really painful and it hurt my heart.
Yeah.
Like, is your child allowed to say that?
Yeah.
Do they feel safe enough to say that? That's
Yeah.
what I'm talking about when it comes to feedback.
Yeah. I have a couple stories of this. I think we've talked about them before for sure. But like, to me, the example I give to my kids is I show them the thermostat and I say, on this thermostat, you can see what temperature it is in our home. And we like it a certain temperature, especially if it's super hot outside. We like it to be nice and cool in here. But this isn't just a thermometer. This is a thermostat. And not only does this thing have the ability to tell you what's going on, it also has the power to adjust, make adjustments, tiny. And a thermostat makes tiny adjustments all the time, rather than, oops, we turned off the hot tub, we turned off the furnace, we turned everything off, and now we've got to come back 50
gonna take a
degrees.
minute, yeah.
It's freezing in here just like it is outside. And if you don't have that on, eventually your home becomes the exact same temperature as whatever's going on outside. And so I've told my kids, like, hey, you're a thermostat, not a thermometer. You have permission to also make adjustments, not just I want you to make adjustments, not just tell me what's going on, but help. I will allow you to make adjustments. And so my kids know that, and my daughter probably knows it best, but there's been at least 2 times that I remember where I've said something like, let's talk when your voice sounds like mine. And she goes, but Dad, your voice sounds really frustrated right now or really angry right now. And I go, wow, you're right. I didn't see that. Thank you. I'm glad you shared that with me. I want to adjust. Thermostat, I'm going to adjust according to what you're putting out there. And yeah, I think that for me, that's like, oh, she gave me feedback and I allowed her to give me feedback and I welcome that feedback because I know you want a certain temperature in the home as well.
Yeah.
And I'm the one that said I wanted that temperature and now you're making the adjustment. So yes, not just you didn't give me ice cream and so I'm not doing my chores, but like, hey, the way you're talking is hurtful. The way you're talking is frustrated. And me as a dad going, you're right. Thank you. I didn't see that.
Yeah.
That's me going, I want you to give me feedback. I want you to adjust me.
Yeah. What I hear you saying in the thermostat versus thermometer is really an agreed upon culture.
Yeah.
That everybody knows this is what we've agreed upon and this is the rules that work for everyone.
Yeah.
And there's no double standard. There's no one that has a different, priority of things, but that this is a culture we're all protecting. So that's what I'm hearing is you're really clear, and so is your entire family on this is our culture.
Yeah.
I was going to say a little bit differently, in complete agreement with my wife. Different words, though, just for the record. But I think something we say often on this podcast and different places we go, we often talk about, as parents, the only influence we have is based on the amount of connection we have with our child. I think it's the same in this conversation, too. That our child actually gets influence over our heart based on the connection we've cultivated. So the influence often comes through feedback. Like, I'm going to influence your heart. I mean, we watch this with God and his people. The first example I'm thinking of, and there's so many, is, I think it was Moses. God tells Moses, all right, go ahead and keep moving. And he's like, I'm not going without you. No, go ahead. It's all right. Move on.
Yeah.
I'm not going without you. We are not leaving this place unless you come with us. And God says, okay. And, it's obviously, and we can talk through that whole thing theologically if we want to, but there's this depth of connection that creates influence in both directions. And I think that's really the heart, and that's the goal, is all this stuff we talk about connection and creating a loving home is for these moments right here where the little adjustments can be made. So it's not some big adjustment down the line.
Yeah. Yeah, another analogy I like to use is, I like to have little clippers in the garden or on trees, like, I can snip off this little branch, this little bud that's starting to grow. But if I don't snip it off here, eventually I need the chainsaw because that thing grew so big.
Good.
Like making these little tiny adjustments, little snips. I think, too, it's an invitation to connection. If your kid gives you feedback and you react and don't welcome it and don't make an adjustment, you just broke connection, and now you're losing influence over them as well.
Yeah.
So it's not just, I think in my mind, it's not just however connected we are depends on how much influence we have. It's how much influence I allow you to give me will strengthen or damage our connection too. I think it goes like, it's a two-edged sword there.
Yeah. And one of the ways that I've heard it from my girls especially is that they'll come find me and say something like, Dad, I miss you. We haven't had a date in a while.
Yeah.
Oh, ouch.
Ouch.
That should be my idea. I should have brought that up first.
Yeah.
But I'm so glad you did. I'm so glad you're letting me into what's happening inside of you and how I'm impacting you so I can adjust now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, the feedback culture, if it's a healthy feedback culture, not just I get to tell you all the time how wrong you are or how bad you are or whatever. The healthy it's a two-way street, but it just develops so much safety in the relationship to want to share your life. All the moms, a lot of moms that have teenage kids that I work with, or even middle ages, their children are not telling them about their lives. So it's a secret.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they feel like they're isolated. They can't access them. They don't know how to gain this. And so much of this is there's not been a space where you've cultivated a place where you say, I miss you. hey, what's going on? I noticed this, to where you say that. Because I think parents give a lot of feedback all the time. I don't think we receive feedback a lot of the time.
That's good.
So we are constantly giving feedback. Hey, I don't know if that's the best option to give to your sister. I don't know if you realize this. We are constantly.
How do you think they're experiencing that?
Yeah.
But, just the other day, I was talking to one of the girls, and they're talking about something, and they're frustrated about something, and it's going on and on and on. And there's no feedback that they're necessarily giving, but I know that there's a need in there that they don't know how to get out. So I go, hey, so what is it that you need from me? Because I hear all these things. How can I help you? How can I take something? Do you need my help? And so even that is asking for feedback if the weight that they're carrying is too much, and if I am missing an opportunity to help you.
Yeah.
And that's where they get to give feedback. I think maybe if we sat down together and we could look at this, it would be good. I don't know if you have time. Like, that's a lot of, we're busy people, and we've got a lot of things happening. Where, our kids, the thing that they're often wading through is we help a lot of people. So where's the space for us at in times? And so that's probably more our kids' thing to look for. And so we're teaching a class. We're filming all week. My mom had surgery. I mean, it was wild, right?
Yeah.
And I go, I always have time for you. You just have to let me know.
That's right.
And so just being in tune with, I give lots of feedback, but am I stopping to ask for feedback or ask for those opportunities where, as a child, they're trying to figure out, because we've got really self-aware kids that are like, this is a lot. I don't want to give you more, but I want to invite you to ask for more.
Yeah. I think we've been talking fully right now about the feedback culture inside our home. And I think there's also the feedback culture outside our home with other families, other kids, other people, and how, I want you guys to speak into that some. I know we were just listening to something, all of us were listening to something out there about, from Jordan Peterson, about, unfortunately, there's a lot of kids whose parents maybe don't even give them feedback and don't make adjustments. The parents aren't doing that. They're not protecting a culture in the home. They're not giving feedback. They're allowing the kids to do stuff, and then they get out somewhere else and no one likes their kids, and the poor kid feels like no one likes them.
Yep.
And I think that's another area to look at, to go, how are other people experiencing my kids, and can I invite feedback from, we went to dinner with them. We had a dinner. Hey, how'd you experience us? How'd that go? What? Right?
Or you, if you had my kids for the weekend, often if they go away to sleepover, I'm like, how was it? And thankfully, I ask this question a lot of different people. I don't know if it's just because we've grown up in feedback, but babysitters, I'm always asking. I'm always asking their youth leaders. I'm always asking different people that are in their lives in different spaces, like, how is that? There's moments where I think Anna, one of our coworkers, was over at the house, and Addie was real sassy about something, and it was just out of character for her. But she had this exchange and this attitude, and I'm like, oh, I'm uncomfortable. I'm sure my guests are uncomfortable. And so I just asked, what was your thought on that? She's like, well, I think she sounds like she's stressed out. I know Addie's hard. But that definitely was out of character for Addie. But just even inviting that space for her to have that conversation with me, to where I'm not going to justify Adeline's actions, creates a place where, man, I have high value, that my kids are really enjoyable, not just to me, but everywhere they go.
Yeah.
And so I think because we've created this, anytime that we have some hard feedback or some feedback that I feel like we need to pay attention to. The beauty about feedback, my dad always says, is that if it's a sheet of paper and you're looking at it and all that's really harsh or really bad, okay, find the thing that resonates with your heart, because it might not be the whole sheet of paper. It might just be this one little corner. All right, that I can do something with. I don't have to take all your feedback. And really, if it's coming from you, I'm probably going to look really hard at this whole sheet of paper if you're giving me all that. But if it's someone I don't know that doesn't really have much context for our family, I'm probably going to take that little corner and then go to someone I trust and go,
What about this?
do you see this going on in our family? What would you
Right.
give feedback to make
Yeah.
adjustments? That's a good thing to pay attention.
That's huge. Because sometimes, that's unsolicited feedback, unsolicited advice. You are telling us all the problems with our kids, and, well, we barely even know you.
Yeah.
Let me go to someone who actually knows us
Yeah.
with that sliver that feels true. Yeah.
And I think part of it too, as parents, it's the courage or the willingness to listen as well. Meaning, we've talked about babysitters for years. We want to hear your experience.
Same with us.
And we're leaders in the church, and we're whatever. We have titles, which means nothing really, but to some people it does. And
I think it can scare people.
exactly, it creates this place where people sometimes don't want to say, your child was hard today, or no fun to be around because of these reasons. Like, please tell me that. And I think parents can take that so personally sometimes. It feels so personal, like, my child was no fun to be around. What does that mean about me?
I'm a bad person.
Yeah.
That's across the board.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably why we don't open up feedback to more areas, is because it does feel like a personal reflection of my own character based off of my child's behavior.
And there's obviously things for me to grow. I always need to grow.
Yeah.
My child is my little one following me around, learning everything I'm doing. So there's obviously, if there's a spot my child needs to grow, I could look at myself as well. And they are their own individual. So they're going to have some places to grow and learn. And so I'm always looking, we are. And Brittney's really been a huge proponent of this in our home. Of we're looking for feedback in every connection we have, every relationship that's close enough that's been given that opportunity. We're asking.
Hey parents, let's be real. As every parent from the beginning of time has discovered, kids don't come with a manual. Parenting is a learning journey from the beginning to end. And like all learning journeys, it's full of lessons, challenges, questions, mistakes, and messes. One of the biggest reasons so many of us get scared, discouraged, frustrated, and overwhelmed as a parent is we think the goal of parenting is to become perfect parents who raise perfect children, which leads us to adopt the fear-driven strategies that focus on avoiding mistakes and messes, and we use control and punishment to change behavior. I wrote a book called Imperfect Parenting, where I explain the true goal of parenting, a safe, loving, heart-to-heart connection with our kids. Pursuing the goal of connection is what sets us up to influence the hearts, minds, and behavior of our children as we guide them on their own learning journey to becoming healthy, confident, and emotionally intelligent. This book will give you the tools you need to lay down the goal of perfection and become fully engaged in your journey of building a healthy, connected family culture where your children can thrive. You can find Imperfect Parenting by going to www.lovingonpurpose.com and clicking store. That's www.lovingonpurpose.com and click store. I think that's it's just a healthy place to start. So, your covenant relationships that you've got around you, I would lean in and ask, hey, I heard this podcast and they talked about feedback. And I don't think I've ever asked you, do you enjoy being around my kids? Mm-hmm. It's not a personal attack on me. It's just good information. And they could say, well, I really love being around Delaney and Adeline, but Lincoln's sometimes hard. Oh, okay. What is hard about Lincoln? What is it that you're experiencing that makes it hard? Well, I think sometimes he's just really rough. This isn't Lincoln, but that I've ever heard. I'm making this up. But, or maybe I feel like Lincoln doesn't want to play with my kids because he's so quiet. That's probably more the tendency. Like, oh, that's good information. And so your kid's experiencing rejection because Lincoln's is more timid. All right. Well, I definitely can encourage him to be a little bit more brave, and that your kid was wanting this relationship. thank you for that. And then I have a conversation with Lincoln, like, what's going on? And maybe that kid's really aggressive. Maybe that kid's scary. I have no idea what's going on. But I'm going to take this feedback without any pre-made assumptions or judgments to it. I'm just going to ask really great questions. I think that's probably the best thing you can do, instead of, why are you rejecting them? Why are you? Don't put that feedback on your child. Get more really good information. And then from there, okay, so you're shy. You're just nervous. Okay. How can I help you? Because I think you want to have fun. They want to have fun. What can we do?
Which we've had that conversation about, 2 of our kids at least.
Yes, we have.
Yeah.
And the outcome, I mean, when Delaney first joined her school, Valor, she was like, I'm just going to stay near you. I'm like, no, you have been longing for friends. And these people.
I had to do the same thing with Brooklyn.
And you want this, so get off of me. Go play.
Yeah.
And I said, what do you need from me? And she's like, I don't know. I said, okay, let's take all your stuff to the girls' cabin. And if you're greeted, you've got to stay. And she's like, okay. So we walk in there, Delaney! I'm like, and she laughs. And then we didn't see her for the rest of the week.
Yeah.
Yeah, Brooklyn had the same thing. She was so nervous. And I said, hey, I'm going to let you stay close for a little bit because I want you to feel safe. I know her. I'm like, you need this a little bit.
Right.
But I said, we're watching for opportunities. You're going to see your friends, and I want you to be aware of that and pay attention to that. So I took the approach of kind of like, I'll let you stay here for a little bit.
Yeah.
But you're going to see them, and I'm going to keep checking with you, asking questions. And before I know it, she's gone. Like,
Yeah.
Goodbye. And she's like, yeah.
Yeah,
I gave you
Adeline's-
enough to feel safe so that your anxiety could come down and you could see the opportunities around you to go hang out with your friends.
Yeah. And my feedback to you is you're letting fear win.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not going to help participate in that.
Yeah.
We didn't do that at Serpell's.
Yeah. That was Addie the first year. Lainey's is more, she just assumes she's being rejected before it started. I'm like, they're screaming your name, honey. That's not rejection. That's invitation.
Yeah.
Go run. But it's interesting, just having to war through the tug and pull of, feedback, creating safety, participating in it. And then I think the invitation that we're really asking people to jump into is the willingness to look outside. Because, there's definitely, we went through a season with our kids where we had a family over pretty consistently that is not our culture. They're a bit more, they had a very unique situation of what was going on in their life, which is why they were at our house. And so we kind of communicated to our kids, we are a safe landing place right now as this family.
This is a ministry for us.
Yeah.
We're serving.
Yeah.
We are serving, we're helping restore, we are a safe place. That's what we're doing. And they said yes to it, but it was hard. I remember we would tell them, and you could see on their faces they were not excited about this encounter because they didn't enjoy the exchange.
Yeah.
And we only could do that for so long before it becomes no fun. And so we had to be willing to hear the feedback. And I remember one of the conversations was, I think it was Addie. I don't remember. Maybe it was Lincoln, but maybe it was the two of them. And they kind of came to us and said, we can do this once a week, but I don't think we can do it any more than that.
Yeah.
Which is great information.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, because otherwise your ministry to them is now becoming
A sacrifice they didn't.
a sacrifice your kids didn't want to make. But also eventually it's like, oh, you're not listening to us. We don't like this. We're not having fun. And now that culture that you're trying to heal with the other family or whatever is now influencing yours in an unhealthy way.
Well, and I think I'll go on a little soapbox here, but families in ministry or that ever choose to do ministry, whether you're pastors or members of the church, if your ministry is edifying yourself and your broken spots and at the expense of your family, it's no longer ministry. It's destruction.
Yeah.
So paying attention to
Yeah.
There's some feedback.
There's some feedback.
Yeah.
pre-back.
I have seen so many times, like I'm a PK, so I got firsthand front row seat of my life has been ministry my whole life. I mean, our kids they're PKs, but it's different.
It's different
It
now.
feels different. I mean, they're not at church and the grind and people coming to your house 10 o'clock,
Yeah.
1 in the morning, all sorts of fun things that we grew up with. But the moment that it is about you and I don't think that God's in the business of sacrificing families. And I think God has really amazing boundaries, and it is our own selfish reasons that break down our families.
You mean
That's a good word.
don't let the church kill your child because God already did that, and you're now trying to play some
Don't
role.
sacrifice your family.
It gets
Yeah.
messy.
Yeah.
And so just, you've got ministries or different things that you've created because you feel like this is what you're called to. Make sure you're asking for feedback, because if your kids don't have a voice in it and you keep saying, God told us to do this, they're not going to
Yeah.
love God. They're going to
Yeah.
be frustrated with him.
Yeah. So so that one was a very specific. We're ministering to this family. We're trying to be a safe place and healing for them. Now it's affecting us. Thank you for that feedback. Let's say it's not that. Let's say it's just, hey, we're going to have this family over and we met them. We like them. Seems fun. Seems enjoyable. We got some things in common. We're going to have dinner together and bring them over. If that's no fun for the kids and it's not like a ministry, like, hey, we've chosen this on purpose. This is intentional. Like, oh, no, we were kind of testing the waters here and it's no fun. Now what? If your kids are like, that was horrible. We've only met them one time. That was so
Never
rough.
again.
Oh, my gosh.
We've done, that's happened a couple times in where maybe one out of the 3 kids get along with the kids.
Yeah.
And so I just suggest it. Like, I'll go meet that parent with the one kid.
Yeah.
Or Ben will go meet that one kid with that. And they'll say, let's do dinner. And we say, let's meet at a restaurant. And
Yeah.
You meet at a restaurant, there's a time crunch.
Yeah.
It's a very different experience than at either person's house.
Yeah.
Those are just the adjustments. We cared a lot about our family and the needs that they have. And we are all about pushing when they need to be pushed and halting when we need to halt.
Yeah.
Because we have good feedback.
Yeah.
So, but there's a great question we should jump into.
Did
What's
he
your-
just kind of ask it? Let me see here.
This is a bit different,
Let
I
me read
think.
it. So I'm going to read this real quick and then we'll answer it. In our family, we have a set of boundary that we don't yell at each other. Do you have any insight on how to handle situations where your family friends staying over who don't share this value, but yell loudly at their own kids? For example, would you address it with them? Or would you keep your own boundary and just keep it to yourself? So it's kind of what we just talked about a little bit.
Well, it's totally a feedback question. Though.
Exactly.
That's why we have it in here, which I think this happens with maybe you go to grandparents' house and it's a very different experience. This sounds like it's 2 different families in a shared space, which makes it a little different.
Or
Or-
a child's visiting.
Or it's cousins. Like,
Cousins,
I
yeah.
think this may vary based on whether it's friends that you're like, whoa, first time we hung out, that was no fun, or one kid gets along. It may be a different answer if it's like, oh, these are cousins that are coming over.
They're not going to go away.
Yeah, they're not going to go away.
Yeah. So
They're
let's say that it's cousins. They're not going away.
Well, it's probably cousins and friends. So with cousins,
So I always say, unless someone's asking for feedback, you're wasting your time. You're casting your pearls amongst the swines is what's happening if you start giving feedback to someone that doesn't want to hear it because
Yeah.
they don't have a problem. So what I have seen happen here is, let's say parents yell, we don't yell, but the kid starts yelling at me. And I say, oh, hey, I would love to help you when you can ask me nicely. So I introduce my culture to this child because especially if they're talking to me directly, that's how I would introduce that. Or if they're yelling at my kid and my kid's like, I would just say, hey, if you want him to play with you, you might need to not yell at him because he's really close to you. I don't think he's enjoying that. Lincoln, are you enjoying that? And usually he goes, no. So I help create courage to my son to set a boundary if it's happening to him directly. But if it's, let's say my brothers had kids and they're yelling at their kids in my house, I'm not going to do anything about it unless they invite me into it.
right?
Yeah.
Or I might just
unsolicited
recommend that
advice.
they get a hotel or pay for it if it's
Yeah.
really no fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had this one time, a little bit different, but where Lincoln's little friend would come over and he would take as many snacks as he could fit in his pockets and shirt and pants, and he would run out and hide it.
And Lincoln was always concerned that all his snacks were going to be gone.
Yeah.
That was part of it.
Probably his biggest concern. It wasn't you're stealing. It's, and,
Where's my
and
snacks?
Yeah.
he was young and he's little and he's working it out, but he's entering a different culture and maybe he's trying it out. He's testing the water. And I remember the conversations with this little boy. It happened a couple of times as he's learning our culture, and I could see Lincoln trying to decide what decision do I want to make here. Do I want to follow his lead and let's get some snacks and let's go
have
climb a tree
14 boxes of
Yeah.
whatever.
But we told this little guy just something just like you said. It wasn't necessarily you cannot, you must not. It's, hey buddy, you're welcome to as soon as we're out here. Come find us if you need something.
Yeah.
But here's what's going to happen if that behavior continues in our home.
Yeah.
And so there's some kind of consequence or experience or requirement in this culture, but I'm not your parent. But he worked it out pretty quick.
Yeah.
This little guy, because kids are geniuses.
They are.
We had one where it didn't get worked out, which may be some stuff to talk through. Like we had a kid who was coming over, would ride his bike, so he lived down the road, and he had ODD, so he would be intense sometimes. And so I would go, hey, buddy, when you're over here, this is how we'd like to talk. This is how we would like to treat each other. We're aware of how we're, and he just never came over again. So I don't know if it's like maybe he went home and told his mom I said something I didn't, or because he's not used to this at all.
Yeah. And I think that's the choice that you get to have, to be offended or to lean in and say, hey, Mikey came home and said that he's not allowed to talk to you because you don't like his personality.
Right.
Not everyone leads with curiosity and says, help me understand.
Exactly.
It probably would be like, who do you think you are? Tell Mikey that he's not welcome here.
Exactly.
And you would have the opportunity like, hey, oh no, we love Mikey. We'd love for him to be here. How it went was I said, Mikey, I need you to talk to my kids differently than you are. Whether they receive it or not. But I think feedback can easily turn into offense, which shuts down the feedback culture.
Yeah.
And those are the things we want to be mindful of is, am I creating an offense culture or a feedback culture?
Wow.
Because that plants some big seeds that grows mighty trees.
Yes. Real fast.
No fun.
Totally. But awesome.
note.
Good.
Good
note
way
to
to end it.
Very good way to end
Feedback culture.
it. Feedback, not offense.
Yep. All right. Imperfect Parenting coming at you. As always, love you. Have a great week. Thanks for coming, Seth.
Thanks for having me again.